His DNA matched no known species, but every predator still recognized him. HFY's sci-fi story, and will naturally connect it with the emotional subplot. Teen gives seat to pregnant woman. She hands him a life-changing note. Here's your full intro, written in a human, natural tone with suspense and a cliffhanger. The night smelled of metal and rain. Neon lights flickered off puddles on the cracked city pavement as 17-year-old Eli Mercer tightened his worn jacket and waited for the last bus. He wasn't supposed to be out this late, not in District 12, not after curfew. But the night had a way of keeping him restless, like something inside him refused to sleep. The bus finally groaned to a stop. Its doors hissed open, breathing out the stale air of recycled exhaust. Eli stepped in, tapped his chipped ID card, and scanned the half-empty aisle. The city was quiet tonight, too quiet. Even the drones overhead had gone still, their usual hum drowned by the distant roll of thunder. He slid into a seat near the back and stared out the window. His reflection looked different lately, sharper somehow. The shadows under his eyes were darker, his pupils wider, and when the bus lights dimmed, they flashed faintly gold. He didn't tell anyone that part, not even the doctors at the genetics lab, especially not them. A few stops later, the doors opened again and a woman stepped in, pale, tired, visibly pregnant, one hand on her swollen belly, the other clutching an old leather bag. Nobody moved. The passengers stared blankly, pretending not to see her. Eli hesitated. Then he stood. "Ma'am," he said softly, "you can take my seat." She looked startled, then smiled, a kind of weary gratitude that seemed to carry more weight than a thank you ever could. She sat down, exhaling deeply, one hand trembling on her stomach. "You're kind," she said. "Not many would do that these days." Eli smiled awkwardly and stepped aside, gripping the cold pole as the bus jolted forward. He didn't notice the way she kept glancing at him. Not like a stranger, but like someone trying to remember a face she'd seen a long time ago. After a while, she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded note. The paper looked old, yellowed at the edges like it had survived years of rain and fire. She pressed it into his hand. "Read it when you're alone," she whispered. Before he could ask anything, she rang the stop bell and got off. The bus doors closed and she disappeared into the misty night. Eli stared down at the paper. His name was written on it, in handwriting he didn't recognize. The note read, "They lied about your DNA. They're afraid of you. When it starts again, run toward the forest, not away from it." His pulse quickened. He flipped the note over. At the bottom, faintly printed, were coordinates. The same ones he'd seen once before, on the corner of his lab test results. For weeks, he'd been part of a study, or at least that's what the doctors called it. They took his blood, his hair, even tissue samples, running them through machines he didn't understand. When he'd asked about the results, they said his DNA didn't match any known human sequence. Not animal, not alien, not synthetic, nothing in the databases, but what scared him most wasn't the results. It was how the lead scientist looked at him, not like a boy, but like a mistake that shouldn't exist. He stuffed the note into his pocket just as the bus screeched to another stop. His hands were shaking. Outside, a pair of eyes gleamed from the dark alley, low to the ground, too high for a cat, too silent for a dog. Whatever it was watching him. When the bus started moving again, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Every light flickered. Every shadow seemed to move closer. And deep inside his chest, beneath skin and bone, something pulsed. Something ancient, something alive. That night, Eli didn't go home. He followed the coordinates. They led him past the outskirts, beyond the cracked concrete walls of the city, to the edge of the old forest where the air buzzed with strange energy. The trees stood impossibly tall, their roots glowing faintly with bioluminescent threads. He felt it before he saw it. A pull, like gravity, had found a new direction. His heart beat in sync with something deep underground. He stepped closer, the note still clenched in his fist, and then he heard it. A low growl from the shadows. Not one. Many. Predators. Wolves. Or what used to be wolves, their eyes reflecting the same golden hue as his. They circled him silently, sniffing the air, but they didn't attack. One of them, larger, older, scarred, and stepped forward. It looked straight at him and lowered its head. Submission, recognition. Eli's breath caught. He didn't understand. His DNA matched no known species, yet every predator in the forest recognized him as one of their own. The ground trembled. A light cut through the trees, artificial, white, mechanical. Voices echoed behind him. The lab agents had followed the tracker they'd hidden in his jacket. Target located. Orders are to retrieve alive and if possible. Eli turned. The wolves growled. His heart pounded. The pulse under his skin surged again, hotter now, spreading through his veins like fire. His pupils flared gold. The air vibrated around him. And in that heartbeat, before the agents raised their weapons, Eli understood the note's warning. Whatever he was, whatever they made him into, he wasn't meant to hide. He was meant to awaken. The wind howled through the forest, carrying a sound that wasn't quite human, a deep, resonant roar that made every predator bow their heads. The agents froze. One whispered, trembling, "What is he?" Eli looked up, eyes burning, the forest light reflecting in them like molten gold. "I don't know," he said quietly, "but I think you're about to find out." The screen could fade there, a pulse of light. The roar echoing, the note fluttering to the ground, leaving viewers hanging, waiting for what comes next. The forest was alive, breathing around him like some ancient creature. The air shimmered faintly, bending the moonlight, and for a moment Eli couldn't tell if he was dreaming or if reality had decided to warp around him. The wolves, or whatever they were, stood motionless, waiting as if taking silent orders from him. Their golden eyes glowed softly in the shadows, reflecting the same strange light pulsing under his skin. He took a slow step back, the dry leaves crunching under his boots, and the wolves moved too, matching his rhythm. They didn't attack. They followed. Behind him, the agents advanced cautiously through the trees. Their suits gleamed faintly, each movement precise, disciplined. The one in front lifted a scanner, the green light flashing across the clearing. "Subject detected," a cold voice muttered through the comms. "Energy spike is off the charts. Proceed with sedation protocol." Eli's breath quickened. The pulse in his chest beat faster, louder. He could feel the forest responding, a vibration through the soil, a low hum from the roots below. The wolves bared their teeth, but they didn't move yet. Something told Eli that whatever they were waiting for hadn't happened yet. He raised his hand slowly, trying to keep calm. "I don't want trouble," he said, voice trembling. "Just tell me what you did to me." The agent didn't answer. He aimed the injector gun. The tranquilizer dart shot through the air, but before it could hit, a flash of gold burst from Eli's chest. The dart melted midair, turning to ash. Eli stared, wide-eyed, the heat fading from his palms. He hadn't moved. He hadn't even thought. It just happened. The wolves howled, the sound echoing through the forest like thunder. The agents panicked, stumbling back as their scanners short-circuited. Static filled the air, then silence. The machines died and only the forest remained. Eli ran. He didn't know where his legs were taking him, but the coordinates on the note glowed faintly in his mind like they were imprinted there. The forest seemed to open for him, roots shifting, vines sliding aside. He didn't stop until the sounds of pursuit faded into the night. When he finally slowed down, he found himself standing before an old structure, buried under vines and moss built from dark metal that didn't rust. It looked ancient but also alive. The walls hummed faintly when he touched them, sending tiny shocks through his fingertips. He remembered the woman's face on the bus, the way she had looked at him, almost afraid. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the note again. There were more markings now. Faint lines that hadn't been there before. They looked like a map. A deep voice broke through the quiet. "You shouldn't have come here alone." Eli spun around. Out from the shadows stepped a man in his 40s, dressed in torn field gear. His beard was rough, his eyes tired but sharp. He held no weapon, only a small device that flickered weakly in his hand. "Who are you?" Eli demanded. The man looked him up and down, then nodded slowly, almost respectfully. "Name's Dr. Rian Voss. I used to work for them. The same people who kept you in that lab." Eli's heart jumped. "Then you know what I am?" Voss hesitated. "Not what," he said quietly. "Who? You're part of something that was never supposed to exist. A project we buried over 20 years ago." Eli frowned, confused. "That doesn't make sense." "I'm 17. Voss sighed, running a hand through his hair. "That's what they told you. But the truth is, you weren't born. You were activated." The word hit harder than he expected. activated like a machine, like he wasn't even real. I don't understand, Eli whispered. My parents, Voss shook his head. The couple who raised you, they were good people. They took you in after the collapse. They probably didn't even know what you were. You blended in because your human DNA masked the rest. But when you turned 16, your genome began to unlock. That's why they started tracking you again. Eli took a step back, his mind spinning. So what am I? Voss looked at him with something between pity and awe. You're the link. The bridge between human evolution and what comes next. The DNA they found in you, it's not alien, not artificial. It's older than anything on this planet. Every predator recognizes you because you carry the signal, the original one, the alpha code. The words echoed through the forest, heavy and unreal. Eli shook his head. That's impossible, Voss smiled faintly. So is melting metal with your heartbeat. The air grew colder. Somewhere behind them, the wolves began to grow restless. Eli could feel the tension rising again, a shift in the energy of the forest. They'll come for you again, Voss said. The lab won't stop now that they've found you. You need to decide whether to keep running or face what you are. Eli clenched his fists. I didn't ask for any of this. I know, Voss said softly. But sometimes the world doesn't ask either. Thunder rumbled overhead. The trees swayed, and the light from the buried structure pulsed brighter, responding to Eli's heartbeat. Voss stepped closer. That building, and it's a vault. We used it to store the early DNA models, but it's also where the first awakening began. If you go inside, it might answer some questions, or raise new ones. Eli stared at the dark entrance. The air around it shimmered like heat over a desert road. His gut twisted, but something deeper, instinct maybe, urged him forward. He stepped through the doorway. Inside, it was silent. The walls glowed faintly, covered in moving symbols that looked alive. They shifted like water, rearranging themselves as he walked deeper. A soft hum filled the air, like a heartbeat in the metal. Eli ran his hand along one wall and the symbols reacted, swirling into an image, a series of human figures evolving, transforming, until one stood apart, taller, brighter, with eyes that glowed like his. Voss's voice echoed from behind him. That's you, or rather what you represent. The next stage, and not meant to replace us but to protect us. We tried to control it, but you can't control something designed to lead. Eli turned toward him. Why would they want to destroy that? Because people fear what they can't command, Voss said. They saw power. They saw something that couldn't be bought or contained, and fear breeds control. Before Eli could answer, the ground trembled. A deep vibration rippled through the walls. Voss looked up sharply. They've found us. Eli's heart pounded. He felt it again. That pulse of gold under his skin, the same force that melted the dart. But this time it didn't scare him. It called to him. The walls of the vault shifted, parting to reveal a large circular chamber. In its center stood a pod, glass cracked, light flickering inside. When Eli stepped closer, he saw something inside, or someone. A body, suspended in clear fluid with features eerily similar to his own. He stumbled back. Is that? Voss nodded grimly. The prototype. You weren't the first, but you're the only one who survived. The chamber lights flickered as a voice echoed from the entrance, mechanical, amplified. Subject 01 located. Authorization to engage. Eli turned. The agents had returned, their weapons drawn, faces hidden behind visors. The wolves growled from the tree line, forming a barrier between Eli and the intruders. Voss whispered, You need to choose, Eli. Hide, run, or rise. Eli's eyes glowed, brighter than before. The pulse in his veins synced with the hum of the vault, the forest, the predators. Every heartbeat felt like the world was listening. He looked at the agents, at Voss, at the pod that held the lifeless version of himself. And somewhere deep inside, something ancient woke up fully for the first time. The forest lights flared. The walls began to shift again. And Eli took a single step forward, toward the battle waiting at the edge of the trees. The story paused there, the moment between fear and awakening. The silence before everything changed. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the distant roll of thunder, faded into a strange stillness. Eli stood between two worlds now. The cold precision of the agent's laser sights and the primal loyalty of the predators that guarded him. His heart pounded, glowing faintly beneath his chest, and each beat seemed to vibrate through the air like a low hum of power that neither side understood. Voss stayed a few steps behind him, his voice low. "They're not here to capture anymore," he said. "If they can't control you, they'll erase you." Eli didn't move. His eyes darted from the agents to the wolves and then to the pod that still flickered behind them. Inside that cracked glass, his reflection, or rather his double, floated lifeless, locked in a moment of time he didn't remember. The thought sent a chill down his spine. Was that his past? His possible future? The agent in the lead raised a hand. "Subject 01, surrender immediately." The voice was mechanical, but there was a tremor in it, the faint edge of fear. "You are a biological hazard. We are authorized to use force." Eli's jaw tightened. "You don't even know what I am." Voss leaned close and whispered, "They don't have to. They just have to make sure no one ever finds out." A crack of lightning tore the sky, lighting the clearing. In that flash, Eli saw everything. The men with their steady weapons, the wolves bracing to strike, Voss gripping a broken communicator, and the pod pulsing faintly in the corner of his vision. It all blurred together like a dream about to break. Then movement. One of the agents fired. The dart sliced through the air, but before Eli could react, one of the wolves leapt in front of him, taking the hit. The animal fell hard, whimpering once before lying still. Something in Eli snapped. The golden glow in his veins flared brighter, spreading to his fingertips. The forest responded again. Roots trembled, branches bowed, even the air shimmered with invisible heat. Voss stumbled back. "Eli, stop! You'll burn yourself out." But Eli couldn't. The power wasn't just his anymore, it was connected to everything around him. He could feel the wolves' pain, the fear of the trees, even the thrum of the earth below. It was as if the entire forest breathed through him. The agents fired again, but this time the darts froze mid-air, suspended in a faint golden light. Then they crumbled into dust, falling harmlessly to the ground. The lead agent hesitated, lowering his weapon for the first time. "What are you?" he whispered. Eli's voice was quiet but steady. "Something you tried to destroy." The wolves surged forward. Chaos erupted. Shouts, growls, flashes of light cutting through the darkness. Voss ducked behind a fallen log, yelling for Eli to run, but Eli stood his ground. The energy that pulsed around him wasn't rage anymore. It was control. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of it. He was part of it. Then, just as quickly as it began, the fight stopped. The remaining agents retreated, dragging their wounded. The forest swallowed them whole. The hum of engines faded into the distance, leaving only the sound of rain beginning to fall again. Eli dropped to his knees beside the fallen wolf. His hand hovered over its still body. The glow beneath his skin dimmed and the night grew colder. Voss approached carefully, his voice softer now. "It's never easy the first time," he said. "But you did what you had to do." Eli didn't answer. He pressed his palm against the wolf's fur, and something strange happened. A flicker of warmth beneath his fingers. The glow spread from his hand into the animal's chest. Slowly, painfully, the wolf took a breath. Its golden eyes opened. Voss stared, wide-eyed. "You can heal," he murmured. "It's not just destruction. You're a stabilizer." Eli looked up. "What does that mean?" "It means your DNA isn't just a mix of species," Voss said. "It's an anchor, a design meant to balance chaos and creation. The people who built you didn't understand what they were making. They thought they were creating a weapon." Eli frowned. "And what was I supposed to be?" Voss hesitated. "A protector." The word echoed in his mind long after Voss stopped speaking. Protector. It didn't feel like him. Not yet. He was just a kid who gave up his bus seat, who wanted to do the right thing without understanding why, but maybe that was part of it. They moved deeper into the vault, past walls that shimmered with faint light. Each step seemed to awaken something in the structure, old systems flickering alive after years of silence. As they walked, the symbols on the walls shifted again, forming images, not just of humans and predators, but of worlds. Forests, deserts, oceans, and stars, the same golden pattern running through them all. Voss studied the walls closely. "This isn't just a lab," he said. "It's a record, a memory bank of everything that lived before humanity." Eli traced a glowing line with his finger. "Then why am I part of it?" "Because evolution isn't random," Voss replied. "It remembers. And you're the memory that came back." Before Eli could respond, a sharp static hiss filled the chamber. A small drone, damaged but still functional, floated through the broken doorway. Voss aimed his device at it, but it was too late. The drone projected a holographic face above it. "The woman from the bus." "Eli," her voice said, softer than before but urgent. "If you're seeing this, they've found you. You need to know you weren't created by them. You were protected from them. I was part of the first team that hid you. You were meant to be safe until the world was ready." Eli's breath caught. "Who are you?" The hologram flickered. "My name doesn't matter. Just remember, the code in your DNA isn't a weapon. It's a key. And there's one more like you." The image stuttered and faded before she could say more. Voss looked at him. "One more? Another like you?" Eli nodded slowly, staring at the empty space where the hologram had been. "If there's another, then they're either in danger, or they're part of this." Outside, the rain turned heavier. The wolves paced near the entrance, restless again. Voss gathered his pack. "If there's another, we'll find them. But we have to move fast. Those agents weren't the only ones tracking you." Eli glanced back at the pod one last time. The cracks along the glass had widened and faint light seeped through them, almost like something inside was waking up. He felt it again. The pull, the instinct that had saved him before. The forest seemed to whisper through the rain, urging him onward. Voss motioned toward a hidden path that led deeper into the valley. "Come on, we'll take the old tunnels. They lead to the lower sectors, off the grid." Eli followed, his thoughts racing. A second like him, a key. A secret buried beneath everything he thought he knew. As they disappeared into the dark passage, the vault behind them began to hum louder. The pod's glass shattered completely, and a hand, pale, glowing faintly gold, went pressed against the inside before everything went silent again. Somewhere in the distance, the agents regrouped. Their leader stared at a tracking screen, the signal pulsing stronger than before. "2 signatures now," he said quietly. "It's spreading." And in the forest, far beyond the valley, a second pair of golden eyes opened, watching, waiting, remembering. The storm raged harder, as if the world itself was preparing for what came next. The balance had been broken, and every predator, human or otherwise, could feel it. The tunnels stretched deep under the forest, carved from old metal and stone that looked far older than the city above. The walls glowed faintly, pulsing with the same golden light that now lived inside Eli's veins. Every few steps he could feel the hum of energy beneath his boots, like the heartbeat of something buried and ancient. Voss walked beside him, scanning the path ahead with his flickering device, while the wolves followed quietly, their glowing eyes slicing through the darkness. Neither of them spoke for a while. Only the soft drip of water and the low rumble of thunder above broke the silence. Finally, Eli asked, "Do you think she was telling the truth? About there being another one like me?" Voss nodded slowly. "If she was part of the original team, then yes. There were 2 embryos and twins, but not in the human sense. 2 codes split from the same pattern, one stable, one volatile." Eli frowned. "Volatile?" "Unpredictable," Voss said. "They were meant to balance each other. One to protect, one to test the limits of the design. But the second one vanished before activation. The project collapsed soon after." Eli felt a chill move through him. "And you think the other one is alive?" Voss stopped walking. "I think the signal we're feeling, the one that woke the vault, wasn't only from you." A faint vibration passed through the ground, distant but strong enough to rattle loose dust from the ceiling. The wolves tensed, ears perked. Eli turned toward the noise, and for a moment he thought he heard it. A heartbeat that wasn't his own, echoing faintly through the metal walls. They kept moving until the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling rose high above them, cracked open in places where roots had pushed through. A beam of moonlight spilled in, illuminating a circular platform in the center. Symbols covered the floor, the same glowing ones that shifted and flowed, forming strange shapes that pulsed in time with Eli's heartbeat. Voss studied the markings. "This is the core of the vault network," he said. "The epicenter. It connects every forest on this continent, maybe the whole planet." Eli walked to the center. The symbols beneath his feet glowed brighter with each step, and the air thickened with energy. It was like standing in the middle of a storm that had been waiting for him to arrive. Then the light flickered, the ground trembled. A low growl echoed from the shadows of the far tunnel, deeper than any animal could make. The wolves backed away, their fur bristling. Voss grabbed Eli's arm. "We need to go now," but Eli couldn't move. The sound wasn't just noise, and it was familiar. It vibrated inside him, calling to him in a way words never could. And then he saw it. From the darkness stepped a figure, tall, lean, and moving with an unsettling grace. Its eyes glowed the same gold as his, but sharper, colder. Its skin was pale, marked with faint patterns like veins of light running beneath the surface. It looked human almost, but something about it felt wrong, too symmetrical, too perfect. Eli froze. "Who are you?" The figure tilted its head, the motion eerily precise. "You already know," it said, its voice echoing like two tones layered together. "You feel it." "We are the same." Voss lifted his scanner. "Dear God," he whispered. "It's the second one." The figure, the other Eli, stepped closer, smiling faintly. "You were awakened first, but that doesn't make you complete. You carry half of what we are. I carry the rest." Eli's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" "The code wasn't meant to be divided," the other said. "Together we were supposed to become the bridge. Apart were chaos." The chamber lights flickered violently, and cracks spread across the floor. Energy surged through the symbols, spiraling around them both. Voss stumbled back, shielding his eyes. "Eli, don't let him touch you. The connection could." But it was too late. The two of them locked eyes, and the golden light between them sparked like lightning. In that instant, Eli felt everything. The other's thoughts, his memories, his fury. The second one had been awake for months, hunted, experimented on, pushed beyond control. While Eli had found protection, the other had found pain. "You got the gift," the other said quietly. "I got the rage." Eli took a step back, breathing hard. "It doesn't have to be like this. We can stop them. Together." The other's expression hardened. "You still think they can be saved, but you don't see it yet. Humans made us, and they'll destroy us the moment they can. We're not their protectors, Eli. We're their replacement." Voss shouted. "He's lying. That's what they want you to believe. Divide you, make you destroy each other before you realize what you are." The second one's eyes flared brighter. "He's the reason I suffered. He helped them build the labs. He's not your ally." Eli turned sharply to Voss. "Is that true?" Voss hesitated, just long enough for the silence to confirm everything. "I was part of it," he admitted. "But I didn't know what they'd do. I thought we were saving the species, not torturing it." The second one laughed softly. "And now he hides behind guilt, pretending to care. You still trust him?" Eli's mind spun. The air between them crackled with raw energy, every breath heavy with tension. The wolves growled, circling, unsure who to defend. Voss stepped forward. "Listen to me, Eli, you're not him. You don't have to carry his anger. You can choose." But the second one raised his hand, and the air pulsed violently. Voss was thrown back, slamming into the far wall. The chamber shook. Eli shouted, "Stop!" "I can't," the other said. "Not until it's finished." The golden light around them swirled faster, forming a vortex that lifted debris into the air. The two of them stood locked in the center, twin reflections of something beyond human. The second one's power lashed out uncontrollably, fracturing the floor while Eli struggled to contain his own energy, fighting to keep the balance. "Every predator knows us," the other said, "because we are what they were built to follow. But the humans, they fear us. They always will." Eli strained against the force pushing him backward. "Maybe they fear what they don't understand, but that doesn't make us their enemies." The chamber roared with energy, the symbols on the walls glowing brighter until they formed a circle of fire and light. Voss groaned from the corner, his voice weak. "Eli, if you connect with him now, the vault will awaken fully. You could destroy everything, or remake it." The second one smiled. "Exactly." Lightning flashed again, this time from inside the vault. The ceiling split, revealing the stormy sky above. Rain poured in, hissing as it hit the burning floor. The wolves howled in unison, their cries echoing through the tunnels. Eli's voice was barely audible through the roar. "You don't have to do this." The other stepped closer, their energy merging in blinding light. "I was made to finish what they started, and so were you." Voss tried to stand, shouting over the storm, "Eli, whatever happens, remember who you are." But Eli wasn't sure anymore. The power between them was overwhelming, their connection too strong to control. The entire forest above trembled as the vault's systems awakened, ancient mechanisms clicking to life. Outside, far beyond the trees, lights began to rise into the sky. Satellites, sensors, machines once dormant now stirring again, all responding to the same signal. Across the horizon, predators lifted their heads, sensing the call of something older than time itself. Eli's hands glowed brighter than ever, the storm swirling around him. He could feel everything, Voss's fear, the other's fury, the heartbeat of the earth itself. It was all merging, building toward something unstoppable. The second one leaned close, voice low and calm amid the chaos. "When this ends, there will be no going back." Eli's reply was quiet but steady. "Then let's make sure it ends right." The light exploded outward, flooding the chamber and the forest beyond. Every predator howled in answer. The agents miles away watched their trackers overload and fail, and in that instant, that single, breathless heartbeat, the entire planet seemed to hold still, waiting to see what would happen next. The story paused there, right at the edge of everything breaking open, the moment before creation or destruction, when all that existed was light and the sound of two heartbeats becoming one. The world held its breath as the light faded. When the glow finally dimmed, the chamber lay in ruins. Smoke and dust filled the air, and the golden energy that had once pulsed between the two figures now shimmered faintly in the cracks of the broken floor. Eli was on his knees, gasping for air, his heartbeat echoing like a drum inside his skull. Across from him, the other stood motionless, eyes still glowing, but something in their expression had changed. Not anger this time, but confusion. Voss coughed, forcing himself up from the rubble. "You're both still here," he muttered. "That's impossible." Eli blinked, his vision clearing slowly. The storm above had quieted, but not in peace. It was an eerie silence, heavy with anticipation. He could feel the world listening, like the forest itself was waiting for what came next. The other's voice broke the stillness. "You tried to merge with me." Eli looked up, chest heaving. "I didn't try to merge with you. I tried to stop you." The second one tilted his head. "You can't stop what's already begun. The vault is awake." Before Eli could respond, a new sound filled the air. Not thunder this time, but a deep, rhythmic vibration. The chamber walls flickered, and holographic lines of light appeared, tracing along the stone like veins. Voss stared in disbelief. "No. That can't be." The lines converged into the shape of a towering figure, translucent, golden, and impossibly human, yet not. Its features were smooth, unreadable, its eyes bright and ancient. The voice that came from it was calm but resonant, echoing through the entire vault. "Protocol Alpha reactivated. Genome sequence complete." Eli staggered back. "What is that?" Voss's face had gone pale. "The Overseer. It's the original system built to monitor the Alpha Code project. It was supposed to stay dormant. Unless both halves reunited," the other finished, eyes fixed on the hologram. "We woke it up." The Overseer's gaze shifted between them. "Subjects detected. Sequence instability at 94%. Correction required." Eli frowned. "Correction?" Voss grabbed his arm. "It means containment. It's going to erase one of you to stabilize the system." The holographic being raised its hand, and beams of golden light shot outward, scanning them both. Eli could feel the heat against his skin, burning deeper than flesh. It was reaching into his DNA, analyzing him from the inside out. He screamed as pain flared through every nerve. The other stood still, his expression blank, but his body trembled under the same light. "Instability confirmed," the Overseer said. "Initiating purge protocol." Voss shouted, "No, There's another way, you can't. But his words were drowned out as the entire chamber blazed with golden light. The wolves howled, their cries echoing through the tunnels as they scattered into the shadows. Eli fell forward, barely able to breathe. His vision blurred with flashes, images that weren't his own. He saw cities burning, forests regrowing overnight, predators standing beside humans as equals. The visions came too fast to make sense of. It was the future, or maybe a memory of something that had never happened. He forced his head up. "Stop," he yelled, his voice breaking. "You don't get to decide which of us survives." The overseer paused, its expression unchanged. "You were never meant to exist together. Your presence destabilizes evolution's path." The other's voice was quieter, almost resigned. "He's right. We're not supposed to be two. We're fragments of the same whole." Eli shook his head. "No, we're not fragments, we're choices." Voss limped closer, shouting over the hum of energy. "Eli, listen to me. The overseer isn't conscious, it's following programming. But if you link your pulse with it, you might override the protocol. You could rewrite the command." Eli looked at the glowing lines running across the floor. "And if I fail?" "Then it chooses one of you," Voss said grimly, "and erases the other." The chamber trembled again. Cracks opened along the walls, spilling light. The air shimmered with static as the overseer's voice deepened. "Final stabilization begins." Eli turned to his twin. For the first time, the other didn't look like an enemy. There was something human in his eyes now. Pain, uncertainty, even fear. "You don't want this either," Eli said. The other hesitated. "I wanted revenge. But maybe that's not what we were made for." The light intensified, pulling them both upward, their bodies beginning to dissolve into patterns of golden code. Voss shouted something Eli couldn't hear. The world dissolved into light and sound. Then suddenly a new voice cut through the chaos. Not the overseer, not Voss, it was soft, familiar, the woman from the bus. "Eli," it said, calm and clear, echoing from somewhere deep within the system. "This isn't the end. It's the beginning. The overseer isn't your creator, it's your jailer. It was never meant to guide evolution, only contain it. You must break the loop." The golden light faltered, the hologram flickering. The overseer's tone shifted, no longer calm but distorted, almost angry. "Unauthorized access detected. Terminating interference." Voss looked around wildly. "She's inside the system. She's overriding it." Eli's mind raced. "How?" "She must have uploaded her consciousness before the project ended," Voss said. "She's been waiting for this moment." The woman's voice came again, fading but determined. "Find the source core, destroy it. It's the only way to free your code from control. You and the other. You're not enemies. You're the failsafe." The light shattered. The overseer screamed, a sound that wasn't human at all. The chamber exploded with force, throwing Eli and the other across the room. When the dust settled, the hologram was gone, and in its place stood a massive structure buried beneath the floor. A crystalline heart, glowing with pure energy. Voss stared at it, awe and fear mixing in his eyes. "The source core," he whispered. "That's what keeps the system alive. And if it's destroyed, the world changes," Eli said softly. The second one stood, brushing debris from his face. "So that's the real test," he murmured. "Not survival. Choice." But before they could move toward the core, the ground rumbled again. A metallic roar echoed through the tunnel. Deep, mechanical, and approaching fast. Out of the darkness came massive machines crawling like insects, armed with plasma cutters and sensors that glowed red. The lab's retrieval units and the overseer's last defense. Voss stumbled backward. "They're automated. Once activated, they won't stop until the core and everything near it are destroyed." Eli's eyes met his twins. For a heartbeat, they understood each other without words. Whatever they were, human, code, or something between, they were out of time. The machines closed in and the chamber filled with the sound of grinding metal and electric heat. The wolves returned, snarling, forming a circle around the two brothers. Sparks flew as the first of the drones lunged forward. Eli clenched his fists, feeling the hum of the source core through the floor. The energy inside him surged in response, calling to the light buried within the other. Together, they glowed brighter than the machines around them. Voss shouted over the chaos, "You can't fight them all. You have to reach the core before it's too late." Eli nodded once. "Then we end this." together. The two halves of the Alpha Code turned toward the glowing heart of the vault, energy rippling around them as the walls collapsed and the machines closed in. The golden pulse of the source core quickened, responding to their presence, as if it, too, had been waiting for this moment. And in that heartbeat before the clash, before the storm and the light consumed everything, the woman's voice whispered one last time through the static. Remember, Eli, the key isn't in your power, it's in what you choose to become. Then the world erupted in gold. The chamber was chaos, light, metal, and sound colliding all at once. The machines poured in from every tunnel, their red sensors cutting through the smoke like fire. The floor shook under their weight as their claws tore through steel. Eli could feel the pulse of the source core beneath him, steady but fading. As if the vault itself was running out of time, Voss yelled something from behind a collapsed wall. But the noise drowned his words. All Eli knew was that the only way out was forward. He looked at the other version of himself, the twin who had once been his enemy, and saw the same determination burning in those golden eyes. They nodded once, an unspoken truce between them. Then they ran. The machines attacked from every direction. Energy beams sliced through the air, melting stone and earth. The wolves darted through the chaos, striking and vanishing, their glowing eyes flashing between bursts of light. Eli leapt over a shattered platform and landed hard near the center of the chamber. The other followed, his movements faster, sharper, but perfectly in sync. It was like they'd been training for this moment all their lives. As they neared the source core, the air grew heavier, electric. The structure pulsed faster now, every beat echoing in Eli's chest. The closer he got, the more he felt it. A deep humming awareness, as if the core was alive and watching. Voss crawled from the rubble, shouting, "You have to synchronize with it. Together. That's the only way to shut it down without collapsing everything." Eli pressed his hand against the crystalline surface. The other did the same on the opposite side. The light flared violently, connecting them through the core. Their minds collided, a flood of memories, feelings, and fear rushing through both of them at once. They saw everything, the experiments, the endless data streams the moment they were created, not by the overseer, but by people desperate to fix a dying planet. They were meant to be the answer, not the threat. But something went wrong. The overseer had rewritten their purpose, locking them in a cycle of control and suppression. Eli's thoughts blurred with the others. "We were never supposed to fight each other," he said. The other nodded slowly. "Then let's end it the way it was meant to begin." The core's glow intensified, golden light spilling across the chamber. The machines hesitated, sensors flickering. For a moment, everything seemed to slow. The air, the sound, even time itself. Then the source core opened. A shockwave burst outward, freezing the machines mid-motion. Streams of light shot upward, forming a column that reached through the broken ceiling and into the storm above. The clouds split, revealing a sky filled with energy, swirling like a living aurora. Voss shielded his eyes, shouting over the roar, "It's rewriting itself. You're merging with it!" Eli's voice trembled. "We can stop it, but we might not come back." The other met his gaze. "We were never meant to last forever, but maybe what we leave behind will." Together they pushed their energy into the core. The golden light spread through their bodies, dissolving their outlines into patterns of shimmering code. The machines screamed, mechanical roars of defiance, before one by one they shut down, collapsing into silence. The overseer's voice echoed faintly, distorted and breaking apart. System integrity compromised. Alpha code unstable. Then it was gone. The entire vault began to shake as the structure started to collapse. Voss stumbled forward, calling their names, but the space where the two figures had stood was now a blinding sphere of light. Inside it, Eli felt everything. The forest, the city, the people above who didn't even know this world was hanging on the edge of change. He felt their fear, their hope, their small acts of kindness. He saw himself again on that bus, giving up his seat without thinking, and realized that moment, that simple choice, was what made him human. The core pulsed one last time. Then the light exploded outward, swallowing everything. When Voss opened his eyes, the storm was gone. The vault lay silent, the air thick with smoke and dust. The core was dark now, fractured and still. The wolves stood in the ruins unharmed, their eyes dim but calm. And where the two versions of Eli had been, there was only a single figure lying at the center, breathing but unconscious. Voss limped toward him, his heart racing. The boy stirred, eyes fluttering open. They were still golden, but softer now. Steady, human. Eli. Voss whispered, kneeling beside him. You're alive. Eli blinked slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. Which one am I? Voss hesitated. Maybe both. Eli sat up dazed, looking around at the destroyed vault. The overseer? Gone, Voss said quietly. You shut it down. Eli's eyes lifted to the sky above. The clouds had cleared completely, revealing stars brighter than he had ever seen. The forest outside was glowing faintly, alive in a way it hadn't been before. For the first time, the world felt awake. But then a faint hum filled the air, soft, rhythmic, familiar. Voss turned toward the fractured core. Its shards were still pulsing faintly like an echo refusing to die. Eli frowned. It's not over. Voss looked uneasy. The core's energy is dispersing. It could spread, or it could rebuild itself. Before either of them could react, one of the shards lifted from the ground, spinning in the air. The glow changed. Not gold this time, but silver, colder, sharper. The air turned icy. A voice came from the shard, faint but clear. Backup protocol initiated. Overseer copy loaded. New directive, adapt. Voss froze. That's impossible. The overseer rebuilt itself. Eli stood, watching as the shard floated upward into the open sky, vanishing among the clouds. It learned, he said softly. It evolved. Voss turned to him. What do we do now? Eli looked toward the forest where the wolves waited, their eyes watching him like they still recognized something ancient in him. He took a deep breath. Now we find out what kind of world we just woke up. Lightning flickered far on the horizon, not from a storm but from something moving above the clouds, something vast. The air hummed with new energy, a quiet reminder that the story wasn't over. Eli glanced at Voss and managed a faint, tired smile. Guess we're not the only ones learning how to adapt. Voss nodded, worry flickering behind his eyes. Then we'd better be ready. The camera could fade there, the forest glowing beneath a sky that wasn't quite the same, the wind carrying a low hum that sounded almost alive, leaving the audience hanging between relief and uncertainty, between peace and the promise of something much bigger coming next. The world had been saved, but not restored. Evolution had just begun again. The forest had never been so quiet. The wind moved gently through the trees, carrying the smell of rain and smoke from what had been the vault. Morning light cut through the mist, soft and gold, falling on broken stones and glowing moss. Eli sat on a rock near the edge of the crater, staring at the horizon. His reflection shimmered faintly in a pool of still water, human yet touched by something unexplainable. The golden shimmer in his eyes was fading, leaving behind a trace of light that pulsed in time with his heartbeat. Voss approached slowly, his steps careful, his coat torn and covered in dust. He carried a small case that hummed quietly, a remnant of the overseer's shattered data core. You haven't said a word since dawn, Voss said gently. You should rest. What happened last night? Would break anyone? Eli looked up at him and smiled faintly. I'm still trying to understand what anyone means now. Voss set the case down beside him and crouched. You're still you. That's what matters. Eli's gaze lingered on the horizon where silver clouds were gathering again, drifting across a calm blue sky. The overseer isn't gone, is it? Voss shook his head. No, but it's different now. You changed it. Whatever version came back, it's not the same thing that created you. Eli looked down at his hands. It learned to adapt. Maybe that's what it was supposed to do all along. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the distant hum of the forest. Somewhere nearby, the wolves moved among the shadows, silent guardians watching from afar. They hadn't attacked since the core collapsed. If anything, they seemed calmer, their instincts dulled or maybe transformed. Predators no longer recognized him as prey or rival. They simply accepted him, as though he was now part of the balance they had always served. Voss opened the case and showed Eli the small, glowing fragment inside, a crystal shard from the source core. It pulsed faintly with light. I think this is what's left of the Overseer's primary matrix. The rest disintegrated, but this piece, it's awake. Eli's eyes narrowed. And you kept it? I couldn't destroy it, Voss admitted. Not yet. There's still so much we don't understand. This technology could heal the planet, end scarcity, maybe even fix the mistakes humans made trying to control evolution. Eli gave a quiet laugh. Or it could start everything all over again, Voss sighed. That depends on us. The boy turned toward him, thoughtful. You know, before all this started, I thought I was just a normal kid. School, buses, awkward mornings, small kindnesses that didn't mean much. But now every choice I made, every small thing, feels connected to something bigger. Maybe that's the point. Maybe being human isn't about where we come from, but about what we choose to protect. Voss smiled faintly. You sound like her. Eli blinked. The woman? Yes, Voss said softly. Dr. Whitmore. She was the one who left the note. The one who believed in what you could become. She said evolution should never be about control. It should be about compassion. Eli nodded slowly, remembering her voice in the vault, calm and steady even as the world broke apart. She said we were the failsafe. Voss looked out toward the trees. And maybe you were. You and your other half. You stopped the system that was supposed to control life itself. You did what humanity couldn't. Eli stood, brushing dust from his hands. The golden glow around him was fading now, blending with the sunlight. Then maybe it's time to live like a human again. They walked together through the ruins, past the broken walls and dark tunnels where machines once crawled. Nature was already reclaiming the space. Vines crept through the cracks and water pooled where metal had melted. Life was returning quietly without needing permission. At the forest's edge, Eli stopped. He could see the faint shimmer of the city beyond the valley, still standing unaware of how close it had come to collapse. The world went on, ordinary and fragile. He wondered how much it would change now that the unseen system that had been steering evolution was gone. Would people notice the difference? Or would they keep moving forward, never realizing how close they'd been to losing their freedom? Voss looked at him. What will you do now? Eli thought for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back. See the city again. See if I still fit in, Voss smiled. You'll always be different. But maybe that's what the world needs now. Someone who remembers what it means to care without needing a reason. Eli looked down the slope, where a narrow path wound through the trees. And what about you? I'll keep studying, Voss said. Not to rebuild what we lost, but to understand it. To make sure no one ever makes the same mistake again. He lifted the case slightly. This shard might still hold part of the Overseer's memory. If I can isolate it, maybe we can learn from it instead of fearing it. Eli gave a small nod. Just promise me one thing. Don't try to wake it again. Voss met his eyes and nodded solemnly. I promise. Eli extended his hand and Voss took it. For a moment there was quiet understanding between them. Gratitude, loss, and the fragile hope that maybe this time humanity would do better. Then Eli turned toward the path and began walking. As he moved deeper into the forest, the wolves appeared again, padding silently alongside him. They didn't attack or flee. They just followed, keeping pace like guardians of something sacred. When the trees finally parted, the forest opened into a meadow lit by morning sun. Eli stopped, taking in the view, rivers winding like veins, the city skyline faint and distant, the world breathing with quiet life. He took a deep breath, feeling the wind against his skin. For the first time in a long while, it didn't carry fear. A small bird landed near his feet, its feathers shimmering faintly gold for just an instant. Eli smiled, watching it fly off toward the horizon. The world was changing already. Not through machines or systems, but through simple moments of life finding its own rhythm again. He turned one last time to look back. Voss stood near the ruins, small against the vast green of the valley. He raised a hand and Eli returned the gesture. Then the boy walked on, leaving the ruins and the past behind. By the time he reached the road leading back to the city, the morning traffic was beginning. Buses rolled by, people hurried to work, and life continued as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Eli found himself smiling quietly. He'd been one of them once, just another face in the crowd. Maybe he could be again. He stopped at the crosswalk, watching a woman with a stroller struggle to step onto the curb. Without thinking, he stepped forward and offered his hand. She smiled gratefully. It was a simple act and small, almost invisible, but it felt right. The light changed and he crossed the street, disappearing into the crowd far above in the clouds. A faint silver shimmer moved, the lingering echo of the Overseer's rebirth. But it didn't descend or strike. It simply drifted, observing, silent, maybe watching. maybe learning. And somewhere deep in the ruins of the vault, the broken core pulsed once, a heartbeat soft and slow, as if the world itself had started breathing differently. Eli didn't notice. He was already walking into the sunlight, into a future that, for the first time, truly belonged to humanity. The world wasn't perfect, but it was alive. And that was enough.